Your white folks. Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight on this Wednesday, August 21st.
You can't leave people in these supervisory positions who are demonstrating this kind of bullying.
Fallout from a report detailing a culture of harassment and abuse in the Capitol under Michael Madigan's watch. But is the Speaker himself getting a pass?
We have to create a culture of accountability in the city.
Chicago's top cop says a gun defender dashboard does just that. Hear from the Cook County Public Defender on why she objects.
So yeah, he was just found kind of standing in a yard, not moving, real lethargic, to the point where they could just pick him up and put him in a box.
And a nonprofit in Central Illinois rehabilitates sick, injured, or orphaned birds of prey. All that and more next on Chicago Tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'm Phil Ponce. A new law affecting landlords and their tenants is on the books. Brandis Friedman has that story and more of what's making news in Chicago tonight. Brandis.
And Phil, Governor J.B. Pritzker today signed a new law aimed at protecting immigrants from eviction based solely on their immigration status. State Senator Christina Castro from Elgin sponsored Senate Bill 1290, which takes effect immediately.
It hurts our communities because one of the things is if they see crime going on in the housing unit, they want to report it to the local police department, or if there's code violations, they want to report it to the local municipality. Landlords have used that, wanting to be good citizens, and turn it around against them, saying if you do that, I'll report you to ICE.
Under the new law, a tenant can sue a landlord who retaliates or threatens eviction against them based only on the tenant's citizenship or immigration status. Landlords could be forced to pay up to $2,000 in penalties to each tenant. A report says almost 1,200 nonprofits in Chicago are receiving free garbage pickup, and it's costing the city. The Chicago Inspector General says city code requires anyone who receives trash pickup to pay $9.50 a month, but the nonprofits were continuing to receive trash pickup for free. The report says it's causing the city to lose over $134,000 a year, almost $450,000 in the 3+ years since the city instituted the fee. The report suggests the Department of Streets and Sanitation work to amend the city ordinance if it intends to continue providing discounted garbage services to qualified nonprofits. And America's favorite basketball nun is turning 100 today.
When I hear these wonderful things, I think, oh my goodness, there's more responsibility being put on my shoulders. I have to keep doing it now. I can't stop doing it. But God bless each one of you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Loyola University is celebrating the Sister Jean Centennial all week, starting with cake today, a birthday mass this Sunday, and a special exhibit at the Loyola University Museum of Art. Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt, better known to everyone as just Sister Jean, became a sports phenom last year after basketball fans noticed her cheering to victory her beloved Loyola Ramblers in the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Sister Jean has been working with student athletes to help keep up their grades and then as the official team chaplain since the mid-90s. Her secret, she stays active, borrowing a quote from her mother that it's better to wear out than to rust out. Happy 100th birthday to her. As for the weather, tonight a slight chance of showers, but otherwise mostly cloudy with a low around 65. Then tomorrow, mostly sunny with a high near 78. And now, Phil, back to you.
Thank you, Brandis. More fallout today from yesterday's long-anticipated report on sexual harassment in the Illinois House under Democratic House Speaker Michael Madigan. Governor J.B. Pritzker had some pointed words today, as did some women who say they've experienced the harassment and bullying described in the report. Is Madigan's tenure in trouble? Here with more is Paris Schatz. Paris.
Well, Phil, the governor certainly expressed a lot of frustration over what was in that 200-page report done by former Inspector General Maggie Hickey. And that report concluded that there was a culture of fear, harassment, and bullying, especially of women, in Madigan's Democratic caucus in the House. But the report laid much of the blame here on Madigan's former top government and political enforcer, Tim Mapes, who was fired last year. Today, Governor Pritzker refused multiple times to single out Madigan himself.
Well, as you know, the culture of sexual harassment exists in Springfield on both sides of the aisle.
Are you confident in his leadership?
We have got to, I am counting on the Speaker and the Senate President and the Minority Leader of the House and the Minority Leader of the Senate to carry out functions that will safeguard women, anybody that could be sexually harassed or attacked.
So did the Speaker drop the ball there?
I think it's clear that both sides of the aisle, because you've heard this on the other side of the aisle too.
Regarding the Speaker and how he handled the situation,
I think leadership in Springfield, everybody in Springfield in a way, we've let this culture go on too long. I mean, I showed up 7 months ago, but this culture has been around for a long time.
Now, Madigan released this report yesterday with a press release saying he's sorry he didn't do more in the past, but big changes have been and continue to be made on this front. Now, although the governor refused to call out Madigan, he did have choice words for Mr. Mapes.
What came through that report was a special kind of discrimination or a special kind of harassment and intimidation from Tim Mapes. And that's really... you know, you can't put people in positions of power who hold those kinds of views.
And Mapes yesterday did offer a tepid apology, adding, quote, "It is my position that the recent criticisms made against me do not truly appreciate the size and responsibility of my position."
Paris, how is this report being received by some of the women who have spoken out about this culture?
Skeptically, Phil. Remember, Madigan hired and kept Mapes in very powerful positions for decades. Now, State Rep Kelly Cassidy from Chicago has been harsh on both men. She says the buck should stop at the top.
Well, he certainly has that responsibility. There's no question. It doesn't, I said yesterday, it didn't begin or end with Mr. Mapes. He's not the only person in the building who has behaved inappropriately. We have to be vigilant about this, and we most importantly have to ensure that never again do we allow the sort of entrenchment and complacency that really allowed this to not just exist, but to flourish.
And this report doesn't stop with just sexual harassment, Phil. It describes a culture of fear and intimidation at the hands of Mr. Mapes, where government workers would fear for their jobs. In fact, Cassidy says that workers who refuse to do volunteer work on political campaigns would face retaliation.
I've heard from staff who, were told directly that they didn't get promoted because they didn't volunteer enough, things like that. So, that's something that we really do have to watch.
And all this trouble, Phil, began for Madigan and the party about a year and a half ago when a political worker, Elena Hampton, came forward about sexual harassment that she suffered at the hands of another former Madigan aide, Kevin Quinn. Today, Hampton said she's happy that this report has been released to the public, but wonders how committed Madigan is to reform. Quinn was fired by Madigan, but recently reported to have received tens of thousands of dollars in checks from many Madigan allies that are lobbyists. Also, Mapes is still said to be involved in the Democratic Party under Madigan.
Just because they're getting fired doesn't mean that they're not still being taken care of, and it's obvious that close allies to the Speaker find it important to take care of these powerful figures, and I think it just goes to show that they're not taking a lot of this reporting and information very seriously. All of this is only happening because sexual harassment allegations became public last year, and if those allegations never became public, none of these changes would have ever been made.
Hampton herself is in the middle of a sexual harassment retaliation, a federal case against Madigan and the Democratic Party of Illinois. That case is still playing its way through the courts, and viewers can read the full sexual harassment report in the Illinois House on our website, WTTW.com/news.
Paris, thank you. And not a Carol Marine and controversy over the new gun offender dashboard. Carol.
Phil, thank you. This month, the Chicago Police Department unveiled a new gun offender dashboard, a publicly accessible website that tracks adults charged with gun crimes in Cook County. Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson said it's an effort to be transparent and to hold people committing gun violence accountable for their actions. But the database has also been criticized by community activists and by our guest, Cook County Public Defender Amy Campanelli. She's worked in the Public Defender's Office since the late 1980s and has been leading the office since 2015. Welcome back to Chicago Tonight.
Thank you, Carol.
So the database compiles information that's already public about people arrested and charged with gun crimes. So what exactly is wrong with that?
Well, it's not really already public the way it has. Now it's put everybody together in this dashboard with 1,100 names, and it's very easily accessible. And the problem with the dashboard is that it's called the gun offender dashboard. You just stated what Superintendent Johnson said, to hold people accountable. Well, they haven't been convicted of anything yet. They are not accountable until they have a trial, until they are convicted of the crime they are charged with. As you know, everybody is presumed innocent in this country. So just the labeling of the dashboard, gun offender, makes it sound like everybody on the dashboard is dangerous and that they're violent, and that's just not true.
But if you're charged, and you're charged publicly, whether it is in separate pieces in various files or compiled together, why shouldn't the public have an idea of who is being charged with gun-related crimes?
Because the gun offender dashboard doesn't tell the whole story, right? These are individual people who have individual stories and individual issues in their case. We represented a man recently, a young man, who, when we were talking to him at the bail hearing, lifted up his shirt and showed us that he had 12 bullet wounds in his stomach. Yes, he was charged with carrying a weapon, but he had just testified against someone in court who had shot him 12 times. He was afraid. So the gun offender dashboard doesn't tell you that story. It doesn't tell you the story about the woman who was 40 years old, a Marine veteran who did 3 tours in Iraq, that she was dating a young man and she kicked him out of his home. They broke up. He called the police. He had left a gun in the apartment. He called the police. She got charged with that gun. See, that's what the dashboard doesn't say. You don't know the individual circumstances about these people who are now being labeled as a gun offender, and the public is being misinformed that these people are dangerous, and they're not.
Well, Superintendent Johnson has a different point of view on that, saying that people who live in proximity to their gun, have a gun in the house, have a gun on them, have a potentially greater propensity to using that gun. And while there may be those kinds of cases, there are plenty of other cases in which somebody's got a gun because they plan to use the gun.
Okay, but they're charged with possession of a gun. We looked at the over 1,100 names on the dashboard this last week, from May till about August 4th. 90% of the people on the dashboard are charged with possession of a gun. And the circumstances surrounding the possession, not firing a gun, Carol, not displaying a gun, not using a gun. Possessing a gun is not the same as getting in a car and rolling down your window and shooting at a porch. Let's be clear about that.
Though you have to possess it to shoot at a porch, and so there may be some relationship in some of these cases,
There
right?
may be, and in bond court, those facts are taken into consideration. The issue with the dashboard is that Superintendent Johnson is saying that the judges are releasing people who are dangerous and shouldn't be released because they have possession of a gun. But that's just not true. The people who are being released, who are in fact using a gun, are most likely not being released. And just like Chief Judge Evans has continuously said, and what we found out looking at the dashboard, it's less than 0.6% of the people who are released on bail, who are charged with having a gun, do not reoffend in a violent manner. So for Superintendent Johnson to say that these people may use a gun, they have access to a gun, yes, but that's only 0.6% of the people. We do not hold people in custody about what they may do. We hold people in custody because they are danger or a flight risk. We cannot be arbitrary in our decisions to put someone in a cage until the case goes to court.
Do you understand some of Superintendent Johnson's frustration in this, given the shootings in Chicago, given the rate of violence in Chicago? I mean, is there a solution that he's not seeing, that you're seeing, that you would recommend?
Yes, I think the solution is to get down to the root cause. We've always said that. I've said that on this show before. Why are people picking up guns? Why? Do they need them for protection? Are they in a neighborhood where they don't feel safe? Many of my clients say they don't feel safe, and they're charged with possession, not using a gun. Can we help kids stay in school? Our emerging adults, that 18 to 24-year-old, which is about 25% of the Cook County Jail right now, is that age group. Can we give them other options besides picking up the gun? Can we invest in these communities? You know, can we get better health care?
But those are all questions.
Right.
In search of the answer.
Right.
In the meantime, there are people who are picking up guns and shooting at other people. And so I think there is a desperate search for some way to address it, correct?
There is, but let me tell you the wrong way. The wrong way is to lock up people who are not violent and who are not a danger. Because when you lock up someone in Cook County Jail, they haven't been convicted. Remember, they're just charged with having a gun. If you lock them up, they don't do well. They don't do well when they come out. They recidivate more. So if you let people out who are not a danger and can go back to their jobs or get back in school, get their community to help them, like all the violence prevention, Arnie Duncan, CRED, READY, all these groups that are trying to help my clients when they are on bond, when they come home from the penitentiary. Those are solutions, not pointing the finger at the judges who are doing the right thing. Remember, this same time last year, homicides are down 13%, shootings are down 12%. We're safer with bail reform.
And yet, Superintendent Johnson, and Mayor Lightfoot for that matter, makes the argument that for gangbangers, drug dealers, people with violent pasts, they can bond out in a split second, that they can come up with the money. They can, can't they?
The judges are setting the bonds. Some are cash bonds where you have to post money, but if you are charged with a crime where the judge is given the tool that you are going to be a risk, right? He is going to either put you on the electronic monitoring bracelet. By the way, the dashboard doesn't tell you those people who are on the bracelet. It tells you people who have posted bond. Maybe they've posted $2,000, $3,000, but they're also on the bracelet. They're in their home. That's an added protection to keep the community safe. It's just not true, I'm sorry, what Superintendent Johnson is saying, that people are being released and committing new violent offenses.
Do the two of you talk?
Yes, we do. We meet regularly.
So you had this conversation with him?
Well, I haven't had the conversation about the gun offender dashboard. It was put out a few weeks ago. I wasn't given a phone call that this was happening. So now I've had a chance to go through the dashboard. It took us a week, several of my employees, to look through the cases.
So I'm assuming that there will be a conversation between you and Eddie Johnson.
I want to collaborate with him. I've talked to him about many things that we have in common, and I want to work this out. I want to be proactive. I don't want violence.
Cook County Public Defender Amy Campanelli, thank you very much.
Thank you
for being with us on Chicago Tonight. Phil, we go back to you.
Thank you, Carol. Eagles, owls, hawks, and falcons, these are all types of raptors, also known as birds of prey. These predatory birds skillfully soar to pursue and catch other animals for food. A wildlife nonprofit in central Illinois rehabilitates hundreds of raptors every year. Chicago Tonight's Evan Garcia visited the Illinois Raptor Center to learn more.
In central Illinois, a bald eagle is learning how to fly again.
He wasn't flying when we first put him in here. The perches, they aren't perches that just swing. They go every which way. So when they get on them, they're using a lot of muscles and a lot of balance. So everything in here is like a gym for them to build up muscle.
The Illinois Raptor Center rehabilitates raptors, or birds of prey, like these juvenile red-tailed hawks.
So we don't spend a lot of time in here. I mean, that's the point of this, is that we want these guys to be wild. So once they, pass the physicals and or gone through whatever vet work they need to go through, and when they're here for rehab and they get put in the flight, we don't really mess with them. We'll check on them, but the idea is that we want them to be panicked when we walk in. We don't want them to be tamed. That would be against everything that we're trying to do here.
The nonprofit is currently caring for 75 orphaned, injured, or sick birds of prey brought to its wildlife hospital.
So yeah, he was just found kind of standing in a yard, not moving, real lethargic, to the point where they could just pick him up and put him in a box.
Program Director Jacques Nuzzo is giving this young great horned owl a physical exam.
So the first thing we're doing is we're feeling the keel on this bird. This is pretty thin. So this is an emaciated bird, so it's starving.
This, to me, looks like a little male. We can kind of tell by their feet how big. The males are always smaller than the females, so when they come in, you kind of look at the feet. These are kind of small feet.
The center is located about 180 miles southwest of Chicago, in Decatur, Illinois, along the Sangamon River. This native vegetation was planted by the Illinois Raptor Center and covers much of the nonprofit's 25 acres. It also plays a big role in attracting birds of prey to the area.
Well, they bring insects, and insects bring birds, and birds bring other birds.
Don't get the wrong idea. U.S. law forbids keeping birds of prey as pets. Special exceptions are made for falconry and rehabilitative efforts like the Illinois Raptor Center. The center also maintains federal wildlife permits to train animals for educational purposes. What are some of the easiest and what are some of the hardest species of birds to train?
Well, training-wise, if we're talking about doing training for programs, hawks are pretty easy, falcons are pretty easy, owls are hard, eagles just require time and patience. They all take patience. But it also depends on the bird's individual personality. So it's the first eagle I ever trained. You can just stay in the doorway and you can... Yeah, see, so that's not a happy look.
The golden eagle is one of the largest birds of prey in North America. While Phoenix only has one wing, she's one tough bird.
This is like the one bird that nobody plays around with. In the history of this bird, only 8 people have handled her. 4 of them said they'll never work with her again. No, I mean, she's an extremely powerful bird.
Nuzzo joined the Illinois Raptor Center in 1991. He's the only full-time employee and says they rely on 18 or so volunteers and public donations for funding.
There's just something about that predatory nature of them, and it's just kind of amazing how powerful some of these creatures are.
For Chicago Tonight, I'm Evan Garcia.
And if you'd like to spot birds of prey in the Chicago area, Nuzzo recommends scoping out parks along Lake Michigan's shoreline. He says raptors, like falcons and hawks, will be preying on other birds migrating through the region this fall. And that is our show for this Wednesday night, abbreviated to bring you special pledge programming. Don't forget to stay connected with us by signing up for our daily briefing. And you can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news. You can also get the show via podcast and the PBS video app. And please join us tomorrow night live at 7. Nearly 3 years ago, Tiger Woods announced his design firm would be leading the revamp of 2 golf courses in Chicago. Where do those plans stand? And Chicago's mecca for moviegoers, the Music Box Theater, celebrates a very big birthday. A look at the history that has filled its seats. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Phil Ponce, and I thank you for watching. Good night.
Closed captioning for this program is brought to you by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, dedicated to preserving the dignity and rights of all individuals.
Welcome to this edition of Chicago Tonight. I'm Gene Honda along with Colleen Crimmins.
Hi.
Why do you watch Chicago Tonight? Well, because you're trying to find out more about what's going on in your city.
Exactly.
And you're trying to find out details behind what you get from some of the other news programs. Whether it's Chicago or the world, that's why you're watching WTTW right now. Well, please lend your support for more information to be able to make better decisions.
Yep. I mean, it's a journalistic institution. It's been on the air for 35 years, always has top-notch correspondence, and that's why you're a viewer. We're so grateful that you're here. We have some exciting news. Gene, do you want to tell them about the meet and greet coming up?
Sure. One of the things that's great about the people you're watching here on Chicago Tonight is you sort of enjoy them, you're used to them. They're friends that come into your home. Why don't you come into their home? How would you like to meet all the people from Chicago Tonight? We have an opportunity for you to join them, to talk with them, to see them in person. Come and join us here at WTTW on Friday, September 20th at 5 p.m. For $100, you'll have the chance to meet, greet, and talk with some of the people who you rely upon for daily Chicago information. You'll get to see the studio. You get to see where Phil and company actually work. We have refreshments, we have hors d'oeuvres, but more importantly, we have a chance for you to be able to meet some of the people who come into your house.
Exactly. Carol Marin is going to be there, Paris Schutz, Amanda Vinicki, and you can be up close and personal with some of your favorite journalists. It's an exciting evening, but Gene, if they can't make it, let's let our viewers know that your support is critical to our ongoing excellence in public broadcasting and specifically current events. So if you can't make it, call us anyway. Use the number on your screen or use our secure website, WTTW.com. Donate whatever you can so that we can ensure Chicago Tonight is on for another 35 years.
Yeah, the people you count on are also counting on you. So call the number that you see on your screen. Call us at 773-588-1111 because you're not the only person who watches Chicago Tonight. We still need your support. And that means you need to be there. Join us on September the 20th. For $100, you'll be able to go. But it's not that big of a studio, so you're going to have to reserve your spot really quickly.
Absolutely, and bring a friend. $200, the two of you are going. There's going to be a great panel discussion after the meet and greet. You'll be having your refreshment, enjoying your hors d'oeuvres, and take part in a panel discussion about politics. What else? So it's a very, very interesting and fun evening. We hope you will be there, but you've got to connect with us right now to get your ticket. And thank you for watching Chicago Tonight.